Well, I'm joined now by Anton Fedyashin. He teaches history at American University right here in Washington, D.C., and he specializes in Europe, Asia, Cold War, and international relations. Hi there, welcome.
Good to be with you again, Susan.
Tell us exactly, what do you think Russian officials will be looking for when they do visit her in the hospital now that she is speaking?
They're going to look for evidence of exactly what happened because we still don't know. At least no evidence of direct Russian involvement has been produced publicly. The first questions will be exactly who they saw, when they saw them, what happened, what they ate at the restaurant, and so on and so forth.
The number of expulsions are near or close to even coming from both Russia, the United States, and NATO-affiliated countries. With the tensions escalating, Anton, what action could be taken either clandestine or publicly now?
Well, this is a pretty tense moment, I have to say. Unprecedented in the amount of diplomats that are being kicked out of all countries involved. And yet, there is something interesting that's going on. First of all, the united European Western response to Russia's actions in Ukraine ended up being a lot more united than the actions right now. Not all European countries are kicking out diplomats. These are already very interesting fractures, although the British and the Americans are really trying to present this as a united front. The Russians were, of course, destined to respond. This is standard diplomatic procedure, and no one should be surprised by this. I also don't see a broader Western strategy to all of this because, for example, you started your hour with a great report about cultural diplomacy in sports and the hope for dialogue between North and South Korea, two countries that are much more at odds between the two of them than Russia and Europe are at this time. And yet the diplomats are being expelled and dialogue seems to be being shut off by the West.
But it's not just this, you would have to agree. It's the roles in the wars in Syria and Ukraine, the annexation of Crimea, meddling in the U.S. elections.
Right.
Russia's really in a lot of hot water with the West.
It sure is. And of course, if you turn the tables around and talk about illegal invasions, splitting up countries, Kosovo and Serbia, and then Iraq, and the question of, proof of weapons of mass destruction then and traces of a poison now, there are too many questions around. Britain is enjoying its James Bond moment. It's relevant. Theresa May's very unpopular government is at its height right now. How long this will last, no one knows. But again, it's interesting that the Germans, for example, approved the final documents that they needed to approve for the building of the second line of the Nord Stream gas pipeline, which many European countries, including the Brits and the Americans, oppose. And yet that has happened very quietly while the diplomatic show is continuing. So there's always a question in my mind about where the true interests of European countries lie with economic cooperation with Russia, and then the show of unity expressed in diplomatic language.
So let's talk about Antonio Guterres saying that he feels like we're on the brink of a Cold War here. He's concerned.
He is concerned, and I don't think comparisons to the Cold War are exactly accurate for the most important reason being that there's no ideological standoff between Russia and the West today. I think the situation is becoming even more serious because during the Cold War, there were rules that were abided by the superpowers, and that doesn't seem to apply anymore. And so the situation is more dangerous because the contacts and the high-level rapport are being shaken to their foundations. And without constantly talking to each other, listen, even the Soviets and the Americans, who were existentially opposed to each other, continued their dialogue with very short exceptions. Right now, things can easily spiral out of control.
All righty. Anton Fedyashin, thank you for your thoughts. Always appreciate it. Great to see you.